So essentially tonight is, you guys can come sit at the table. You'll have to sit clear back there.
Why we all, last meeting we were all down there.
Everybody's got a mask on. So essentially, you guys were provided, or at least Rob, I know, was provided with this list of items from the council strategic planning last fall. Wasn't it? Almost a year ago.
When we did that.
Yeah, almost, anyways.
June.
There you
Yeah,
go.
getting close.
So we just want to hear from the staff, you guys, to see what your department's needs are, and see how we can line it up then and within our strategic plan. So, I guess whoever wants to go first, and then maybe on these things, kind of an update of where we might sit on some of them, because I know some of them are already in. Whoever wants to go first.
I can go first. I'll step up.
John.
Okay, so I got a list of priorities that we've got going on. This year we're trying to get the data IQs in the substation replaced. They're 21 years old and they're starting to show some wear. And we did budget $100,000 in the budget for that, so we are working on that currently, trying to get something to work with the power plant SCADA system. So we're working on that. Servicing the substation this year. And my glasses keep getting fogged up, so bear with me. Servicing the substation this year. The price is all the companies that were doing it. They all pretty much quit except for two. And last year we got a price of $100,000 to do it, and usually we spend roughly $4,000 to do it. So we did budget this year for $100,000. So I am in the process of getting the RFP sent out to those companies to get bids on that. We have the substation. We had a meeting today with Boots Daily and Brain. Jeff Quinn were there. Myself, with Evergy, they've kind of, you said it about right, they've been dingling the carrot over our head saying that they were going to they possibly pay for some of the transmission line coming into town to feed the substation. Today they told us no, they don't want to do it now. So, that's what we've been waiting on our engineering study. So, he should be done here shortly with that to bring to the utility committee and then bring to the council. He's still saying between $4 and $5 million for a substation. That's not including the transmission line though, so the distribution, but I was budgeting that later on. So we have the electrical maps are going to have to be updated. That's going to be a $5,000 project. We haven't had them updated since 2016. I've been keeping my maps on my computer updated, but we need to make one big map for the guys so they can carry the trucks. And I'm always thinking of the future. Someday I'm not here or something, I want to make sure everybody knows where everything's at. So, we've been working on prices for the electric vehicle charging stations and the infrastructure to supply them. We did get one bid in, and they estimated for the infrastructure and for the charging stations between $75,000 and $80,000 each. So, and those are fast charging stations. They're 3-phase. They should charge a car within 30 minutes. And they have a card so you can charge the person for the usage of the power. And we're still looking at other sources. So that was just one that we've talked to so far. And there's also money coming available for such things, grant money and stuff like that. So we're looking into that also. We are currently, every year I do pick certain parts of town that we've had serious issues in. We can't get trucks into, the muddy alleys or just easements, you can't get nothing into. We're putting them underground. I have a map, if anybody wants to look at it, of areas that we've done in the past, areas that we have done this year, or we plan on doing this year, and areas that we plan on doing in the future. I know it says bury all electric power lines on this. On the three-phase lines, it's not a good idea. On the main lines coming out of the substation, we do not want to put them underground. We've put up Hendrix spacer cable on all those within recent years. That cable is very dependable. We haven't had any problems with trees or squirrels or hawks or anything like that on that line. What we have problems, our outages mainly come from our spurs, our taps that come off and go down alleys and stuff. And we're currently trying to put those underground, a little at a year, every year. What we've come across is boring prices have went up. They started off at, a couple of years ago, they were $5 a foot. Now they're up to $16 a foot.
Do we have our own boring machine?
No, and I have been looking into boring equipment. I was going to put it in next year's budget for a piece of boring equipment, which is $150,000. And
150,000. So that machine's what you need to put the electrical underground.
put just to kind of eliminate the boring fees. So I'm not saying put the whole system underground, just the spurs and stuff that are open wire. Those are the problems we have, some of the problems we have. Most of the problems we've had in outages have been with our substation here lately. The blinking and stuff like that, that's mainly come from the substation. Equipment's 21 years old. We're trying to replace it we try to keep up on it, but some of the equipment that is in that substation is antiquated. It's no longer available. So we're trying to find pieces of equipment that will work with our system, with the SCADA system that we have between the power plant and the substation, and will also work down at the substation itself. So, and we're meeting with Eaton next week on that topic. They have several pieces of equipment they're going to bring in. They want to look at our system and see what's going to work with it. Like I said, the substation is going to be the big money deal. I did a rough estimate on what it would cost to put the entire town underground, and I mean as a whole, and it's roughly between $20 and $25 million. Okay, and that's because, and a lot of that is because right now with the markets, copper and oil keep going up, and I mean they're fluctuating every 5 days. They're not fluctuating; they're just going up every 5 days. I try to order most of our material I save a lot of my budget till the end of the year. And I've done this since I started being in charge and ordering equipment. I try to order all the material for the next year. And this year we got kind of messed up because of COVID and the trucking and everything else. And a lot of our equipment that I ordered previously didn't show up till this year. So I ordered a lot of it back in January, December at a time. June didn't show up till, here the recent past couple of weeks. We've had a lot of deliveries. So that's kind of messed up my budget process a little bit, but I'm dealing with it. So these are the major projects that I got planned that, for the future. And you guys got any questions?
Well, Chris, so you intrigued me a little bit on the boring machine.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how many miles of lines we have?
We have 33 miles.
Okay, and then how many miles can those boring machines last, do you think, before they're done? Roughly.
It's kind of hard to say. Probably 5 to 6 years. You can get it out of a boring machine. I don't know about miles. It depends on what you run into. A lot of the issue with what we're running into with our boring prices going up is because we're running into rock, and rock takes a toll on equipment, on boring equipment. It eats up gearboxes and stuff like that.
How many miles do you think you bury a year currently?
Oh, we probably bury. We do half mile to a mile a year. We bury on spurs, but that's, then we got secondaries. When you put the primary underground, you got to put the secondaries underground.
And the only reason I'm asking at $5 a foot, I just did the quick math. To pay for that machine would be 5.7 miles. After 5.7 miles of boring, then we're at a break-even point at $5 a foot on the board. And I know boring's going up, so I'm just trying to put it in my mind on what our return on investment would be.
And that piece of equipment could also be used for the water and sewer department if they put in line,
Yeah, absolutely.
stuff like that. So.
Okay.
We try to, since we have a limited, we have a small crew, we try to I pick and choose these projects where we have the most outages, where we have the most issues, and we put them underground in between projects. So, if we have a nice week and I can call in locates and get everything located in between projects, I send 2 guys out and just start working on that. And it's worked out pretty good. We've eliminated a lot of stuff like Prairie Edition out there. We did that 1 year. Out there in West Baldwin, and we're planning on doing some alleys up north on 1st Street, 2nd Street Terrace, over by, and it's not just because the chief lives there, but down his road, because we got some serious tree issues over there, and so and that's where a lot of our outages came from, is over in that area here the last couple times with trees and stuff like that, because we can't get in there when it's wet. It's a non-rocked alley, so, and trimming trees off the hooks is not real fun, so it's kind of dangerous, and I'd rather limit not to do that. So we do have a $40,000 tree trimming budget this year. I'm actually using that money. I've talked to Glenn about that. We have caught up on a lot of our tree trimming over the past 5 years. And we've been kind of aggressive on it, but it's paid off. We're taking that money and doing a few more alleys this year underground. So we're trying to repurpose that money towards that.
Good. Now, how do you guys help citizens? Like, let's say somebody buys a property in this side of town, and they want their power out of the ground. How do you guys?
They pay for that on their own. Now, if we decide to come in there and do it on, if we're putting the primary underground and we have to do the secondary underground, we talk to the customer. Usually they'll, pay the $500 fee that there is, and it depends on what their service looks like. If somebody's got a brand new meter can or a newer style meter can disconnect, we'll trench to it and we'll put the wire in. But if if the meter can and all that has to be replaced, then they have to pay for that. And usually the customer, you talk to them about putting it underground, and we'll put the conduit and the wire in. You just need to pay for the meter can and the disconnect. They're fine with that. So it's a minimal cost to them, and it stops a lot of outages and overtime for us. So it's kind of a win-win deal. We've eliminated, when we started that dangerous service deal a few years back. We eliminated a lot of old services, and a lot of those customers put those underground instead of having them overhead. They had some real ratty stuff on their houses and businesses, and we got rid of a lot of that. So I did have a question. You have a couple things on here. One's identify alternative utility sources.
I think we're mainly talking water on that.
Okay. And then the modernized utilities.
I think that's just all encompassing. If we got antiquated utility equipment that we'd like to modernize it or as much as we can.
And we're currently doing that and trying to do it within the budget, so, picking and, doing it each year. I know it takes a little longer than that, but trying to keep the budget down and not increase rates, that's about the only way you can do it. So, take the worst and eliminate that and just move on. So, we had a lot of the issues with the substation that we had this year was just really old relays and stuff like that, and a couple old switches that we replaced. Luckily, we had them in stock, so I keep a lot of that equipment. I try to keep a lot of that equipment in stock, but the relays and stuff, they get very high dollar, so you can't keep a lot of that stuff in stock. And if we have a limited space to store some of that stuff, and I really don't want to lose a relay that's worth $2,000 or $3,000. That would not look good on me at all. So a lot of the companies try to keep them in stock for us. So if we get a call, but like I said, that substation is 21 years old. It doesn't have a break ever. So it's been taking it's been working its butt off. So, and it's starting to get overloaded. So get to its peak. And that's why we're trying, we've been working on trying to get a substation for a while. And thank you guys for letting us get the engineering going so we can get that done. So, but Food Sailing Range should be here within, they said by May, they have council meetings. We should have them in there going over the study. So, and that's all I got. Unless you guys have anything else.
So you said $4 to $5 million for the new substation, not including the transmission line.
Correct.
What is the cost of the transmission line that originally Evergy was maybe going to help us out with?
It depends on where we're coming off of. If it's the 345 line, or the 115 line, it's gonna be very expensive, in millions of dollars range. But we're talking about going back to the 345 line, which will cut the cost.
Where's that at?
The 345 line. That's what we're currently being fed off right now from Evergy.
Is that from the Gardner feed or the Gardner
It would be coming from the Gardner feed, but what we do. The plan is to come off the Gardner feed over by Glen Rockers area and come down the highway if we put the substation when we put the substation on the north side, and then internally build us a loop feed back to the other sub. So we can connect the two subs. So we do that. My crew would be doing that, which we have the capability of doing it, and I've pretty much got it all planned out and material lists wrote down and stuff like that. So it just comes down to when we start to do it, get the material ordered, get it here, and get it built. But we try to do a lot of our stuff in-house.
Sure.
A lot of the engineering on the lines out in town, I do. And it's just common sense, building a line is, you know what to build and you know how to build it. My crew kind of gives me a lot of grief because I overbuild some areas, but it's paid off because we've had building in that area. So, and I knew what's coming in the future. A lot of our buildings go north, so I overbuilt a lot of that line up north, and we haven't had to build. We don't have a regulator station in town. We don't have capacitors in town, and that's very rare for a small city to not have those pieces of equipment, and they're very high dollar pieces of equipment. What those do is they increase the voltage, because the further away your source is, your voltage starts to lag. So we haven't had that problem here. So, because our conductor is sized properly for those installations.
So is the engineering firm going to give us a price for the different locations?
Mm-hmm.
Or have we decided on a location for the new substation?
They're going to bring in multiple options and let the council choose from that.
Okay.
They're going to give their recommendation on what we should do, but they'll have multiple options.
Chris, refresh my memory on just what the second substation is going to do for us. split the capacity so the load goes down on both? Is it going to provide any redundancy?
It will split the load.
Okay.
We'll split the load between the two substations, which eases up on the older substation. It gives us capability if, say, the substation we have now goes down, we can put the full load on that substation so we have a backup. If that one fails, we have a backup. We've been without that for a long, long time, and it's, as a lineman perspective, it's kind of scary. So also if we want to do maintenance on the sub, we can put the load on this, take it off that. We can do a lot more service, recognizing more issues that came up. Right now, we're kind of limited what we can do on servicing because we can't take that substation out of service without killing the town. So we have done that in the past, killed the substation and ran off generation, but the way that we did it was not recommended, but we did it anyway because we added those extra breakers on there. So, and we had to keep the town going and to kill the substation completely. We had to do it a certain way. But it was done safely. It's just we put a lot of load on a breaker down at the power plant. So I don't want to do that very many times.
How close will we have to peak, to supporting peak load?
How
close? The one we currently have, how much room do we have left?
It's a 10 MVA transformer, and our current load was 9 megs, and that's a 10 megawatt transformer.
And the question is ideally one will support the full city at
The
peak.
new one will be a 20 MVA.
Okay. So this one still may be undersized as we grow past 10 meg.
Yes.
We would-
But you can still, even though you're over that amount, you can, if it comes down where we have to use that substation, say this one goes down and we're over that amount, you can still go over. 10 megawatts is recommended. It'll still go to 150%. You don't really want to do that, but you can. Also, you can generate the excess load to take it off the sub if you need to.
Gotcha.
The only problem with doing that is then you're going to be spending money on diesel fuel and natural gas.
So you got options, yeah. You
Yes.
can generate, bypass it.
Yeah, we still have options right now. We just want to get ahead of the game.
And if the council does choose to move forward, we're still, a couple years away from it being complete?
Correct. It'll probably take 2 to 5 years to get it completed. You'll have to buy a piece of property. We'll have to get the land graded, equipment here. And like I said, the way equipment's coming right now, it's slow. So I'm going to say 5 years is probably the time limit we're going to have. And like Glenn said previously, the debt service on the power plant will be pretty much gone by then. So that'll help.
Any other questions for Chris? Move on. Who's next?
I'll go next, I guess. Pass out. You guys have seen some of this already. This is just kind of some updated numbers. I don't have a whole lot on my list other than additional generation is the big thing. And it's in the engineering study we got currently going on. For those in the utility committee, and Mr. Mayor was there that day too, Lutz came down and threw out a 9 megawatt Wärtsilä generator that they were recommending for the power plant at a cost of $12 million. They didn't say anything to us prior to mentioning that, or we would have probably asked them for some different options. So today, when they were there, we did ask them for some different options. So they're going to look into it a little more. And I gave them some of the suggestions I had here on the paper about some of the stuff that I've seen. There's some used equipment out there. One in particular is at the bottom of the page. It's a 2019 4 megawatt Caterpillar. It only has 1 hour on it. It's in Colorado right now, so their asking price on it is $950,000. My guesstimate on getting that here hooked up, it would take a transformer to get it into our line voltage, because our line voltage here is 1247, and this is actually generating 4160. So it would take a generator like, a transformer like the one we have behind the old power plant. So with that, and probably it would not fit in the existing building very well, so it'd probably be a little addition to the new power plant to get it to fit. And then another breaker, and then getting all the SCADA tied to it. My estimate is 1.7 to $2 million to have that 4 megawatt unit installed. Now, it is a diesel fuel only, so this would not be something that would be entered in the market. It wouldn't be one that would be feasible for running for economic reasons, like the other two that we have in the new plant. But it would be good for emergencies, just like the downtown plant. It would be something to look at for when the downtown plant does expire. I know that's on your list. Lynn asked me the other day, how long do you think that's going to be? And I don't have an answer for that. Like I told him, the engines are rebuildable. We've got a bunch of parts now. The parts are available. You can buy basically anything on those engines still today. It's the generator, the switchgear that's probably going to eventually close down that building. And it could be next week, or it could be 15 years from now. And I don't really have a good answer for that. But like I told him, actually, with it being so old, everything's mechanical, that you can depend on it starting. The 2 units, at the new plant, they're PLC controlled, and the PLC is 16, 17 years old. So, every now and then it'll throw a fit, or it won't want to start, or it'll alarm for a reason that it thinks there's a problem when there isn't. So, in all reality, they're some of the most reliable units are the ones at the downtown plant. So, I don't know what the answer to how long that will be. We are set to do generator inspections this year for the 3 units that are still in service down there. Actually, this evening on the way here, I got that quote for it. It was actually more than I thought it was going to be. It's $26,000 to do the inspection on those 3 generators. But once we have that done, that will give us a pretty good idea of this is something we do every 5 years. So, hopefully we'll get a 5-year, okay. So, there's other options. We could look at some dual fuel stuff. Back in 2018, we went out for a bid for a dual fuel cat. They were pricing a 3 megawatt dual fuel cat at 1.8 million plus install. So again, we're probably looking another, at least $500,000-600,000 for the install. But I just think that we need to look at different options than the 9 megawatt Warsaw. We all realize that that's probably not a viable option. So it'd be awesome to have, and it would, take care of any load growth we ever thought we'd have. But I don't think that that's going to be possible. So the thing at the top of the page is the rainy tower replacement. That's at the downtown plant. It's a radiator down there, and we've been able to prolong it. We've gone to blowing out of the water every fall, so it won't freeze on us. We don't run antifreeze in that anymore. We just run water during the summer, and then we blow it out, so it's winterized for the winter. And since we've been doing that, we have not had any more tubes freeze and rupture. So my best guess is that we're probably going to just keep pushing that down the road, because I don't think we're going to have to replace that. Next item, I guess, is we talked about this before too, was the possible purchase of the existing solar field we have in year 8 or after. I've got the prices down there, what the contracted price is. They've already set that. Obviously, that's not something we need to worry about today, but it's on the back burner there. once we have a little more data from it, you know, on what we think it would cost for the O&M and that kind of stuff, I think we can take a better guesstimate whether we should purchase it or just continue with the power purchase agreement like we have. I think the numbers will show themselves once we get a little further down the road. And that's about it for what I have. I just, at the end of the deal, I put a little bit on the capacity value of the downtown plant, going back to the question about the future use of the utility plant. Right now, capacity is trading at $2.25 per kilowatt per month. But right now, with the 3 units we have down there, that's equal to $6,750 a month, or $81,000 a year. So that's the value of just in capacity of keeping that plant going, and it's paid for. You know, obviously there's some upkeep, like the generator expense that we're going to have this year, but you know, there's a value there. Just a little more information on capacity. We have 3 megawatts of capacity with our GRDA contract. It's going to be expiring in 2026. So we're probably going to want to look at something to replace that. Right now, we currently sell 145 kW of extra capacity per month. And like I said, in the sentence under that, I suspect there's going to be some more cities looking for some capacity to buy once the GRDA goes away. Because I don't know how many are looking at additional generation to cover their capacity deficiency that they'll have once they cancel that contract. So, you know, that might be something that we could benefit from too if we did go with additional generation. Is that as long as we have the downtown plant, we're going to be long on capacity, so we could actually sell that through the MP to the different cities.
Isn't the GRDA contract the expensive one?
It is, yes. But one good thing about it is it's 3 megawatts of capacity that is included in it. And it's 100% capacity. You get the full 3 megawatts. When you're talking like a wind or a solar project, you only get a certain percentage of what the nameplate is as far as what you credit for capacity. Like the common number is 30 to 50% for solar and wind. It's not dispatchable and it's not on all, you know, at all times 24/7 like a base load contract like GRDA is. So, I don't know, the talk at KMEA is that they don't think that the GRDA contract is going to be extended out. I don't know, Glenn and I talked about this today. I'm not sure why. Everybody's thinking that, you know, it is one of the more expensive ones we have, but it also has a capacity built into it. So there's quite a bit of value in that. So I guess we'll just have to wait to see when we get closer to 2026. You know, if they're going to offer something, what the price is going to be, you know. I'm just guessing at this point. So I think that's about all I have. Yeah,
Is there, you hear anything about, you know, battery technology? What are they saying as far as storage? Is there anything even on the horizon they're talking about being able to store and dispose, you know?
I think on a small scale that it's viable at this point, but I don't think on a utility scale that I've seen anything yet. I mean, I know there's still some stuff being done,
Right.
but as far as you know, the cost of it has to be astronomical.
Yeah, there'll be conversion somewhere down the road, way past when we're doing this. That
Right.
It will surpass it'll be cheaper than generating your own. So, you know, we're ways from that, but I just didn't know if the industry was talking about the technology that's going to get there, and then everybody can take their own estimates about when that will be. But it doesn't sound like even
I haven't
horizon.
heard a lot of a utility scale.
Yeah.
I mean, I know there's some tests going on about some bigger stuff, but I haven't heard, you know, as far as costs and the longevity of batteries and such. I mean, at this point, I can't see it as being a viable option for utility scale. For individuals, I think there's, you know,
Right.
I think we'll see that. But for utility scale, it would take a huge amount of batteries. We're talking about the load of a city like this.
Yeah, I agree with current technology. It's not feasible. For sure. Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Any other questions? Rob, you're up.
Okay, now,
I made these passes for that.
Talk about. I just forgot to pass them out.
my list is long as usual, guys, so I'm gonna try to pare this down for a nice discussion, so I went through this again today with Glenn, we sat down and talked about this, and I picked out 4 or 5 projects that I think are probably coming to the top of the list. Everything on the list is important, but these, for tonight's discussion, seems to be the most pressing that I'm seeing in public works right now. So what came to the top of the list actually brought itself to the top of the list late Friday night, early Saturday morning. I don't know if you guys have heard or not, we had to put out a water conservation notice early Saturday morning. We had a failure at our north water pumping station. We lost our Evergy, lost a transformer. We don't know. We're guessing. Chris was up there with us, guessing that it might have been a lightning strike. Something caused one of the 3 transformers at the station to fail. And so what we think happened was dropped the phase, that pump, which happened to be running at the time, kept trying to operate on low voltage and eventually it burned itself up. So 10:05 p.m. we got an alarm via the SCADA for power outage. That is not that unusual. It's a remote location. It happens. So I saw it come across. I turned the outage in via their app online. About midnight, I guess, SCADA called again. Delbert picked up the call this time, and he went up there. Evergy was there at that point in time. They'd made it there. They were starting to change out the transformer. Another hour or so, he called me back and said, we're here, we got the transformer replaced. We got inside the building, it's full of smoke. So he said, I think we've had a fire up here. So immediately get up and head that way. The time I got there, they have got the transformers heated back up. We can't get any power inside the building. Nothing inside the building will work. And so that's when I started called in Chris, called in P1 Group, their commercial electric contractors, called their emergency number. Because at that point, the clock's ticking. Now, we have no ability to move any water into Lawrence, and we have whatever's in the tower. Not knowing what we were dealing with, called the city administrator, called the mayor, and said, here's the deal. We probably need to issue a water conservation notice immediately. Try and get out ahead of this. So P1 showed up very quickly. They was there within probably 30 minutes, 40 minutes. Did some testing. We found we had power to breaker and 480 panel. Nothing past that. Chris had replaced some of that equipment several years ago in that 480 panel. Those of you who've been up there have seen it. That equipment was all purchased used. And the equipment that Chris replaced in that cabinet was also purchased via eBay. We had to buy that equipment used. The breakers, various other electronic components that have been replaced in there were used because it's antiquated. We can't find them. Long story short, we did get the breaker back on. We got power restored to the building. We did a quick test of the other pump that was not running. It appeared to be okay. We started it. Did a voltage check, did a load check on it, and that's the pump we're running on still today. That was Saturday morning about 6 a.m. We canceled the conservation notice. So here's the problems where they start stacking up. Prior to that, the pump we're running on now has a vibration in it. So our call actually Monday morning was going to be to Douglas Pump to come down and look at that pump because it's vibrating. It also has a hiccup during start that we're trying to get diagnosed. So, top of that, the clay valves are hanging on it. So, we addressed that last week. We got new clay valves ordered. Thank goodness we got that one where it's working, opening and closing smoothly. So, right now, we're running on the worst of the two pumps. Monday morning, Douglas came down, they did a quick check in pump number 2, pulled it, and took it with them back to their shop. I got a price on a new replacement, ordered a new replacement out of California. It's 4 days until it can get here. That's expediting it, getting it on a truck as quickly as it can get here. Friday at the earliest, likely Monday. 7 to 10 days to get the old pump rebuilt and back to us. So that's where we are on that. Right now, everything is working as it should. We're keeping a close eye on it. We ran out multiple times this weekend and checked it. We're checking it multiple times per day. And knocking on wood, kind of holding our breath. Long way around to get back to what we're talking about tonight. Updating the motor control centers at the water pumping station has been on the list for a long time. We need to get that done. The glitchy part about pump number 1 is we think the starter, Douglas pump guys, we started it when they were down there. They listened to it. They think the starter is on its way out. So we called P1 back and they can't find the starter for it. They're still looking, but so far nobody has that starter. We're looking for alternative methods. If we have to, we get in a bind, we can take the starter out of pump number 2 and move it over to pump number 1 if we had to do something to get us by. So we're doing the best we can, staying on top of it right now. Everything's okay. Pump's running right now, as a matter of fact. So we're just going to keep moving forward and see how everything comes out. But this is the top of my list tonight. It was on the list anyway. It would have made the cut, but this is the first thing that I wanted to talk to you about tonight. So before I move on, do you guys have any other questions? That's a lot of information. Before I move on and get off this onto something else, do you guys have any questions about what happened or why we put the conservation notice out?
So what is your recommendation for taking care of this problem?
I got a quote. It was very difficult to get quotes last year. I did get one finally, which is probably not going to be a good number now, but to replace the motor control centers and the transformer that's inside the building was about $75,000. So I would bump that up to 100 just to be on the safe side. And I would like to move on that. I mean, I'd like to move on that now. The new pump that I ordered was $19,000. The rebuild estimate on the old one's about $12,000. The new clay valves I ordered last week were $20,000. This line item for machine and equipment repairs, I budgeted $70,000 for this year, and those repairs are going to take most of it. Just what's happened over the weekend. But for the first time ever, we will have a spare pump. We will have a spare pump motor. So the plan is, whichever one gets there first, the new one likely will get there first. We will install it back in pump 2's position, get it online. If pump number 1 has to be pulled and taken back, we will do that as soon as the other one gets here. We'll swap them out so that they can take pump 1 back to them if it ends up not being a starter issue and something that has to go back to their shop. And then whichever one actually ends up being left will be the spare at that point.
So this is outside of what you budgeted for 2021, I take it.
It's still within the bounds, but it's going to take most of that line item, machine equipment repairs. There was $70,000 in there for this year, and
So maybe something that needs to be done, added to the budget later this year from some other source. But it sounds like you're figuring out how to work it into your budget. Just cautioning that you might need more from somewhere later.
I will say too, I opened an insurance claim on this. I don't know if it's going to go anywhere or not because of potential lightning damage. He called me today, the adjuster called me today. They're already pushing back on it because there were no registered lightning strikes within 2 miles of the building. And I said, I don't know if it was a lightning strike. We're guessing something sent a surge down that line and burnt that transformer up. We know that for sure. We know that's what happened. I don't know what caused it, but there was a lot of lightning that night. So we'll see if that goes anywhere or not. That's EMC, our insurance carrier, and they're turning it over to a subsidiary company that covers mechanical failures. So I expect to be hearing from them later this week, and I don't know, it didn't hurt to ask. It didn't hurt to
Well, if something suddenly happened, I mean, that says insurance coverage all over it. When it happens suddenly, that's usually the marker there.
right?
Insurance companies, do you think about insurance companies?
I'm telling you. I think you're right. Well, I think you were right to make a claim because it's a no-brainer to me.
You know, I'll tell you,
Want to get Corey fired up, start talking to insurance.
I mean, if it had rained on it for 4 years, and that's what, but that's anyway, I digress.
Just for asking, I'm sure.
when I got there,
Just teasing you, man.
1 something in the morning, that pump was still so hot you could not lay your hands on it. 6 o'clock, 6:30 when we finally left the building up there, it was about operating temperature when it's running. It took it that long to cool off, so it probably was on fire. There were no signs that the paint was scorched, but it got really hot. So I'm sure that the pump is going to get, if it's repairable, it's going to need a complete rebuild. So I think that's why the range was 12 to 15 on that. The new one's 19. So we had to make some quick executive decisions because of the situation with pump number 1. So we ordered a new one and we sent that one to Kansas City to get repaired. So the next.
Oh, is that it?
The next item that's kind of the top of the list is a water line extension on North 400 Road to Ridge Lane and Fire Tree. You guys know Fire Tree Phase 6A is coming to a completion. 5B is going to be firing off later this summer. That's still a one source in. As far as water mains go, we need to get this water line in, so this is probably number 2 on my list, at least underwater. The Angle Road out there, it's approximately 800 feet. We're figuring probably about $80,000. We're going to have to do a bore under the county road, water mains on the east side. Fairly straightforward project, but it really needs to be done. And I would like to, I think we need to do that this year, next year at the latest. We need to be on this. This was put in the budget somewhere. I don't know where it landed, and I don't know if it made the cut, but it was in there at some point.
So if we bought the boring machine, can we do that in-house?
We just let Casey buy the boring machine.
He clearly wants the
I'm
boring machine.
just saying
You have to let Casey run it.
I'm agreeing.
You what?
I agree.
I mean, if we're going to spend $80,000 here to bore,
Right.
No, you're right.
I mean, you don't have to get mad because I teach you about insurance.
Just let him drive it one time.
I'm just economics alone, right there telling me, okay, you're spending $80,000 over here already, and we're spending, if we're putting in 2 miles at $5 a foot, that's.
You just paid a contractor to bore the highway, didn't you, out there in Heritage?
It was $16 a foot.
So even to go under a highway?
Did we hit rock?
Okay. Theoretically, we probably could do it. We still have to go through the permitting process. We'd have to have a company come in and make the tap, make the 12-inch tap. But if we had a boring machine, we've never had one. I really don't have a lot of experience with a driller. I don't know.
I did hire the apprentice I have. His dad was Mitchell Boring Company. So that was one deciding vote on hiring him because I knew I needed somebody if we got a boring machine. He's ran one ever since he's been 12 years old. So.
Well, I'm just thinking that's going to lend itself to, when we start talking about the economic development stuff and the strategic plan and different tools, now you can use them to help move the needle a little bit.
That can cover so many different things too. And
Different
use
departments.
use it for different things.
So, I
He's
mean,
doing the quick math to see what 800 feet times $16 a foot was.
12,800.
So that $80,000, roughly 13 to 15,000 of that's gonna be boring, and then a piece of that'll be the saddle tap line. We're talking 8-inch line. We bore it the whole way because there's a creek crossing, there's a driveway, fairly new driveway there. We don't want to tear up, so we bore that whole thing in. So that's a pretty good example of another project that it can be utilized for if we had a driller.
I mean, does it require like a specific set of like expertise, or is this something we could use? Like,
Corey's wanting to know if he can go.
can I drive the? No, but like, I mean, if we buy it, I mean, we're just gonna sit there scratching our heads at it. I mean, does he have to have someone be licensed to use it? I mean, I don't know nothing about this machine.
Probably would take some training.
You don't have to have any license to run.
Okay.
But yeah, there is training. If you buy something, the company automatically trains the
Okay,
crew how to run.
yeah, yeah, that's what I'm asking. Yeah.
And yeah, we got Baker's also talking about a boring project. They want to put everything that we just put overhead down on 2nd Street underground. So for their new stadium upgrade. So that's coming up too.
Well, I mean, maybe that's something that you guys as department heads can start working on to see where you got room in your budget, where we can pool resources from the different departments, since multiple departments would use the machine. You see what I'm saying? I mean, you know, just like your trucks that you just bought them, you're, what, $50,000 under budget on that?
Yeah.
I mean, so, just maybe that's something we can take a look at.
And we've done that before, skid loaders and like that, we split the cost on because multiple departments use it. It's something that's actually a little later that I wanted to talk about too, was equipment replacement, so certainly something we can look into for sure. That was pretty much it for water streets. One thing that's coming to the top of the list is the Elm Street benefit district. If they decide to move forward with that, we will need to budget for that probably next year. I still anticipate them moving forward with that project once we get that done. Orchard Lane, street that goes back to the nursing home and the leisure living, that road crossing there needs to be replaced. Here again, probably this year, first part of next year, that culvert is deteriorating under that road and has been. We've been back and patched it a few times and tried to keep it, but that's one of the priorities on the street list that needs to be taken care of. Probably 50,000-60,000 on that. Not a big ticket item, but something that it's going to be a little bit. It's a one way in, one way out back there, so we have to be a little bit careful about making sure we have we'll have to build a temporary access road or something where they can come through the golf course if they had to. But that's a project that we're looking at trying to get done. Chip seal phase 2 this year. We've gone in with the Douglas County for bids. Several small cities have gone in with the county to do one big bid, so we'll have some numbers for you shortly on that. One of the items on your list was develop an all-street. No, I can't find it right now, but basically, yeah, an all-street plan. And here again, I wasn't sure what you were talking about, but that's kind of what I've done on this is mapped out the whole town to do it in sections. I originally thought it would take 8 years, depending on what the numbers look like this year. I think we could probably do it in 6. The chip seal this year aims to high 1st to 6th, including Dearborn Circle and Santa Fe Drive and Hillside. That's pretty aggressive. I think we can do it. I think we have enough money to do it. We have $150,000 budgeted for lighting and resurfacing. That's going to depend on if we have to pull out a year. There, we may want to overlay that stretch there by the new police department that's currently gravel. So if something, project like that comes up, we may not be able to get quite as much of this done, but I'm thinking probably six-ish years we'll be able to move across the entire town and have the streets resealed.
On that road by the police department, is that not an option to just chip and seal it?
We could, you're chipping and sealing over gravel though, you're not chipping and sealing over asphalt, so I don't know that you'd be quite as happy with. Once we got enough layers on it, it would be better. It'd be a good road to experiment on to see how it did, because it probably doesn't get a whole lot of traffic over there. That's something that we could entertain, sure. Wastewater treatment plant, upgrade the SCADA system, which is in process, probably May. Of course, all that equipment's been ordered. Steve's working closely with Microcom on getting that lined out. He's talking to him today on that. Looks like equipment's ordered. They're making preps to start the install in May, so everything's on track for that. Aging pumps, motors. Steve said 20,000 times 4. He'd like to get 4 more of these pumps. We're kind of getting ahead of that down there a little bit better. We still need to have a couple spares. We still need to replace a couple, so that's $80,000 in pumps. I only have one item. Under parks, and it's Spring Creek Lake. And I know this isn't the forum to get into that, but that's my one item on parks that we need to discuss. What the future holds, what it's going to look like, what we're going to do out there. The cold snap, we had a lot of dead fish out there touring around. We had, of course, trees down, limbs, so we went out there doing some cleanup, and there were a lot of dead fish out there. I think it just got so cold.
Nowhere to go.
It's so shallow. So anyway, it's you got, and everybody's seen it. We know what that is. I did a real quick list here of a few pieces of equipment that in years when I think we're going to have to replace them. So budgeted $100,000 this year for equipment replacement. That's a mini excavator and possibly a skid loader if we split that with the electric department. It's 2021. I'm going to replace a lawnmower next year, and 22, about 23,000 on that. Probably going to look at replacing one of the backhoes in 23. That's 130 to 140. 2024, we're going to try and replace the Freightliner dump truck. It's a 2004. It'll be 20 years old at that point. A little larger number here, about 180,000 on that. And 2025, we'll be looking at replacing the sewer jet. It's probably 80 to 100 on that piece.
And when we look at replacing, like, getting backhoes, and are we checking locally first?
We will when we get to that point, sure.
Motors and different things.
Right,
Okay.
right. And that's kind of where I was kind of planning on doing the lawnmower this year. I think we can get one more year out of it though, so I'm going to push that off to next year. I did buy a 30-inch walk-behind commercial lawnmower for Sullivan, so we don't have to put the big machine on it this year because it was tearing the grass up when they returned. It was tearing the sod, so we'll be doing that by hand along with a few other fire department. Out from the fire department, the library's got some places it's hard to get, so there was enough to justify buying the bigger commercial walk behind. So I did get that bought this year. I've only got one more thing, and just real quick, if I can pass these out. This is off topic, but I don't get you guys all together very often. So, if you guys have noticed, I took some pictures today. I had the land post.
Here's mine.
Suez is in town this week. They're power washing and prepping the West Tower. It's part of our maintenance program with them. It's exterior restoration. Those towers have never been painted, and they need it. The guy, Lynn put a picture up today. I took him power washing the top of it. So they'll be here about a week, power washing and prepping. About 2 weeks, they'll come back, do a primer coat. He said, don't let that fool you. It's going to kind of be a tan color, but they do that so then when they put apply the bright white top coat, they can see it better. So here's the question, and we'd like to get a consensus on. We can go back with the black block style lettering that's on there now, which is great, but it's kind of blah. So I asked Suez if they could come up with something with their graphics department, because our city logo is so nice. What would it look like if we used our city logo on our tower instead of just black block style letters? So this is a rendering of what it would look like, the scale. There would be a slight upcharge because of the graphics itself, the size of it, and the multicolor. So it'd be an upcharge of 10 to 15,000 to do this versus what they would charge us just to paint it back like it is now. But they would allow us to spread that over a couple of years if we wanted to. And we could also, we could do this with the lettering too. We can also move it so that it makes the most sense, so you can get the most visual impact from it. So like the one they're doing now, the back one, it really needs to move a little bit so that you can see it better from both angles, both sides, both directions of the highway. Anyway, of course, this come on quick. I didn't know they were going to be here this quick, and so I was going to take this to utility committee. But since we're all meeting tonight, if you guys could give me a head nod if you think this is a good idea. If it looks good, if you got a different idea, we could next year we'll be doing the north tower, so we could do the same thing up there. We could do something totally different. We could use the Baker mascot. We could use the Bulldogs mascot. Any number of things. The only thing we really don't want to do is we don't want to change the color of the tank itself. We use the lighter color to kind of try and keep that water as cool as possible in the summertime, so it doesn't start affecting the chlorine levels.
I like it.
Yeah, I think anytime you can put your personality up that high and that big, I've always been envious of Edgerton's. It says global routes, local routes. I think that's so clever. And it's like, that's really great. I wish we had something like that. So I like it.
If you guys want to talk about, think about it. We still have time. They could even come in and paint the tower and then come back, and which they'll have to do anyway, and put the graphics on later. But like I said, I just want to make sure everybody's happy with it. Now's the time if we want to change it up. Now's the time to do it, because it won't be painted again for another. I think it's 10 years. It's on a 10-year cycle, so we'll have to live with it for 10 years.
I like it.
Same. I like it.
Nice and professional.
Yeah, they'll do a good job with it. All right, that's it.
Any questions for Rob? I have just a couple. I've talked to a couple of people about this. So in 6 years, our chip and seal is done, right? And we've been budgeting $150,000 per year, give or take. So I want to bring up the brick streets. So essentially, in 6 years, we'll have 150,000. How long until we have to start that process over? I guess I'm trying to see.
I probably would start right back in again.
So then
It's always
Annual expense.
It's always 150,000 a year.
I think when we first did that, that was what they were thinking we'd get out of it was about 6 years, and it would need to be done again.
Okay. Makes sense.
Now, you guys that live up there that have driven the streets know that there's spots up there that didn't stick well, and we are going to have them come back and redo that. And they've agreed to do whatever it takes. They understand that it's kind of an anomaly. I mean, we bought the very best product we could get, Haydite. I don't know if it was just late enough in the year. I don't know if the product had a little extra dust in it, but there's spots, especially the cul-de-sacs, that it didn't stick well. And so we're gonna get that remedied. It doesn't disqualify them as being a good company. I mean, they really are the best out there. Everybody, including the county, uses them. We are gonna switch to granite on our phase two and try that, see if that does a little better. And going in with the county, we're guaranteed a better spot. We probably June, July, they'll be here. So, but this will be taken care of. I promise you that they're gonna come back and make this right, and we'll see to it that happens.
All right.
Brick streets, we can do a complete work session on brick streets too.
I think we probably will.
If we don't start, we're never gonna.
Exactly.
They start to plan.
Yeah.
You know, what do we want to do? Where do we want to start? We'll start downtown, you know, get the downtown nice, and then determine 9th Street, does it really need to stay brick? We've had the discussion, it's just, you know, let's do one block. Let's do one block of 9th Street, and then see, you know, everybody will see how nice it is, and we'll do another block.
Yeah. Well, we also need to talk, when we're having that discussion about our bricks and our sidewalks downtown and getting those replaced and what would be nice.
What and how, right?
Chief?
Which one?
Yes.
You're next in the row.
Really, I don't have much. My biggest ticket item is our air packs are expiring out. We have been filling out grants for the last 3 years, trying to get an air pack grant to pay for our air packs. The problem with the grant is we don't know why we didn't get the grant. They don't tell you that. Last year we made it to the finals. I know we made it to the last rounds, and then they kicked our grant back at us, and that's all we know. They do try to help smaller towns, smaller rural areas, like really rural areas that don't have hardly any money at all. But the problem I'm running into is our air packs are going to expire out next year, or pretty close to the end of next year. All but 4 of the 15 are going to expire out. And the 4 that will be good will expire out the year afterwards. So it's not something that I cannot get. It's something we got to have. We priced them out, and we've been pricing them out. You're looking at $6,000 an air pack. That's the air pack, mask, and an extra a bottle and an extra bottle for that air pack. Technology's changed, so the stuff we have. I mean, our air pack, our racks, and all of our stuff on our rack is obsolete after the end of the year. I mean, you can't sell them to somebody else. I can't even give them away to somebody else because they're outdated. Really, that's my biggest ticket item is the air packs. We are still working on a grant. Don't get me wrong. We're going to try all through the year to still get a grant for some of it, all of it, whatever. I have been talking to a ex-battalion chief out of KCK who has moved into the Baldwin area. He wrote a lot of grants for Kansas City Fire, KCK Fire, and we're hoping we can get him on board with helping us see what maybe we did wrong writing the grant, but we've also had professionals help us write the grants and we still didn't get them. So that, and the only other thing I have is we're going to need to replace the Ford pickup brush truck. After it burnt, we did get it fixed. It's never been right. I mean, it runs barely some days. But I've taken it to Toby, I've taken it back to Ford, taken it back to the guys that built the truck, back when it first started this, but they kept telling us nothing's wrong with it. Well, we know something's wrong with it because it don't run right. And Ford will tell us that, but they can't tell us what's wrong with it. But it is an 08 truck. We will not replace the bed and the pump. We will just buy a truck without a bed on it and just transfer over, buy a cabin chassis truck and replace it. Which is, I found a place up in Indiana. I think it's Indiana. I got with Chief Baxter in the new district. Under 40,000, about 41, 42,000. We can buy brand new trucks up there. do this certain car lot, will sell them to fire stations at their cost in the door. Of course, that makes them a lot cheaper. So, other than that, that's my only two things I have. For the fire department, our biggest concern is the air packs. We're getting ready to try to get the grants turned in again, but there's no guarantee. And once my air packs expire out, I can't use them anymore. I'm not allowed to use them anymore. So.
Have you talked to Lawrence Douglas County when they buy theirs and see if we can piggyback on?
Well, we went. They already got theirs. They piggybacked in Kansas City, Kansas, and didn't tell nobody. Of course. So they piggybacked. It was Kansas City, Kansas, Lawrence, and I forgot who else. They all piggybacked together and got a big grant for air packs. And the year they did that, they were trying to give us their old air packs. They were expired out in 2 years. So that's my ones that are going to last the extra year and a half. The ones I got from them before I got from them. Like I said, we're not giving up yet, but it's just, I talked to Glenn about it, and I was like, if it comes down to it, I'll have to figure out how I'm going to end up buying some if we can't get a grant. So, that's about it for me. We've already dealt with our radio issue. Just if anybody wants to know, we've already got almost all of ours replaced. So we bought them 3 here, 1 here, 2 over here. They're all new, brand new in Kenwoods, but we actually saved a lot of money by going with Kenwoods. So other than that, that's all I got. Chief.
All right, guys, I'll be brief, and I've got a small handout for you for the numbers and things like that, so for ease of taking notes or remembering. First off, I want a personal thank you to each of you. As you guys remember from last year, you guys funded our new police station. And I can tell you, without a doubt, it has been a dream to work out. We've been very fortunate. We've even had outside agencies that have been extremely proud of what we've gotten and have used it as well. It used to be if an outside agency came to do an interview in our city, there was no place to do that interview. They wouldn't even bring them to our old station because it was just not suitable. They would take them either back to Lawrence or they would do their interviews in their cars. Now they're coming to our station and using our facility. So we're very proud of that. I can't thank you guys enough for doing that for us. It's been just an absolute dream. The stuff that I've got listed on this sheet are kind of in an order of how we are prioritizing what our needs are. We do still need to get 8 additional radios to cycle out the old radios that we have. Pretty soon, the Lawrence area law enforcement groups, both Douglas County, Lawrence, and Eudora, are going to be going to an encrypted channel. Our other old radios won't do that. We will not be able to communicate with them if we don't do this upgrade. We already have 3 of those radios in service right now. They work very well, and we just need to replace the other ones. The watch guard body cameras, all law enforcement throughout the nation are all getting body cameras now. The ones that don't are going to be required to by the National Commission to do so. You guys should be very proud of your department. Years and years ago, even before I was here, your agency here in Lawrence, or our agency here in Baldwin, went to body cameras and in-car video cameras before anybody else in our county did. And so some of that technology is one that I'm wearing right now is some of the initial stuff that we did back in the day. So when we bought our new car, we had the opportunity to field test a new outfit, which is WatchGuard. It's a robust company. The technology is better. We really like that in the new car. We want to change ours out. It comes at a pretty hefty price tag. To do all the rest of the body cams in cars, you're looking at about $79,000. The original quote was about $90,000. That included an $11,000 server that Eddie, our IT professional, has told us we don't need to get that. He thinks our current server is robust enough that will handle all of that. Right now we're running dual systems. We're running both the Digital Ally, which is our original one, and we're also running WatchGuard, which is the body camera for Sergeant Epperly in his black car that he has, which is our newest car. So that would be the changeover for that. last year, since our building project was so large, I deferred the cost of a new vehicle. We had it built in our budget, a new vehicle every year. I deferred that out of 2020, out of respect to you guys mostly. You guys spent so much money, and we were really over budget in some of the soft items that we put into our building, that I deferred the cost of that vehicle to this following year. So we're behind a year in that, but we're making up for that. We're doing just fine. We do have vehicle issues that we work through. Toby at the garage is fantastic about getting turned out. Our cars, if we damage them in any way, or if they're broken and he can't fix them, we send them off to be done. But he does a lot of work on our cars, which we're really impressed with. So for this year, we were looking at a 2021 Ford Interceptor SUV. For me, it was, do we go with an SUV Ford, or do we go with an SUV Dodge Durango? A lot of local agencies around our area are going to the Durango. But the feedback from our city garage, mainly Toby, is that the engines in the new Dodges do have some issues. And I can attest to that because we've already had issues in some of our own Dodges that we own. So, given that, I'm going to stay with the Ford. That also allows us to interchange some of it. Like when I cycle out one of my Fords, I can recycle some of the equipment, and if it fits in the same model, I can actually use that same equipment and not have to buy brand new. So that'll save us a little bit on that. So a new vehicle costs about $33,000 and some change, but it takes about $20,000 of equipment to fully outfit it. The next one is what I'm referring to as the rifle lease purchase program. Our long guns that we have is a mismatch of different kinds. And when I say that, we have some that the department actually got from the U.S. military, 4 of them. The rest of them are different manufacturers, all with the same kind of AR-15 platform. But what we have is the optics are mounted on a fixed handle. That handle is usually where the iron sight is at. So when you naturally cheek that weapon, you can actually look fairly comfortably down that weapon and sight down the sight line of it. The optics on those had to be mounted on top of the handle. So to actually do that, you actually have to raise your head up quite a bit to see through the optics that we have mounted on those weapons. It's just not the best for our people. Now, given that, the cost for a new AR-15 is around $1,500 for a good one with optics and with a light, because they have to have those things. We've spec'd that out. What I would recommend to our city doing here is what my former job was at Lawrence PD, was helping with the program of the lease purchase program, where the city actually purchases the weapon initially, and then for 1 calendar year, the officer pays out a payroll deduct out of their paycheck the entire cost of that spread out over 12 months. Therefore, at the end of the year, the city sells the item to the officer for $1, and then it becomes the ownership of the officer. They take better care of it when it's theirs, and the cost is minimal to the city. It's an upfront cost, but you recoup all of your costs back out of it at the end of the year. Minus 2. I would like to have the city purchase 2 that I could hold in reserve. If an officer is involved in an officer-involved shooting, we have to seize that weapon and it has to go for testing. Therefore, we have to replace that weapon with one on the off chance that happens. Or if we happen to break one, a person needs to have one. This is minimum equipment that they have to have while they're working. So, any questions? Go ahead.
Liabilities around using personal equipment on duty?
No, it's actually done quite a bit throughout other agencies. Some agencies provide all the equipment. There are some agencies that require you to buy certain pieces. And then we have a contract. It's about a 5-page contract for the lease purchase program that goes into all the scenarios that could happen. Let's say that I start as a new officer and I decide I don't want to work here anymore, and I leave within that first year. What happens to that weapon? I haven't fully paid for it, and the city only has paid for part of it because I've been making payments on it. So the contract spells it out that the city has the option of either keeping it, or if I'm leaving on good standing, you offer it to me that I pay it all immediately out before I leave. Or you can garnish my paycheck before I leave to cover the cost of it. It's all spelled out. Yeah.
Would it be mandatory for them to do that? Or, I mean, maybe I wouldn't want an AR-15. You know what I mean?
No, we could do to where, but that would be an extra cost for the city, because everybody has to have one. Right. But I can make, let's say we have, let's say out of 11 people that I have on the department, 2 of them don't want to. then we could just purchase one that they share. When they're on duty, they have to share that same weapon.
Got it.
Yeah, that can definitely be done that way. We can do a hodgepodge, we can do a mix match, we can make all of those work.
I'm saying like,
The next one is the personnel pay analysis.
Maybe
Before Laura left, she and I had a conversation about this, that every 5 years, the city of Baldwin City does a pay study to find out if they're good with the market, if they're paying their employees appropriately based on what other people pay theirs. And we're due this year. So this is the year that Baldwin City would be looking to do that. So I'm just putting the bug in your ear that that's this year. I can tell you that when we were hiring for our newest position this year, I did happen to find out that Lawrence PD was hiring an office clerical worker for the front office records division. And their starting salary for that Monday through Friday, weekends and holidays off person was higher than my entry-level police officer, which I think is wrong. It hurts my stomach to think about that. So I think when we go into this study, we need to have that mindset of things need to be appropriate. These people are putting their lives on the line for all of our citizens, and they need to be compensated fairly. And it's also a good recruiting tool for us if we're competitive in what other people offer. Structure at the police department. I just put these for long-range planning so you know what we're doing. To run 12-hour shifts where I have 2 people working at all times, I currently have one position that's open, and I have one officer who's on modified duty for an injury, a shoulder surgery. So I currently just have enough for everybody to be staffed without having the SRO full-time at the school. This COVID has really messed up our ability, and the person who's injured happens to be our SRO. So what I've done is I have assigned one of my day shift people on their days that they are working to be at the school during the daytime when the school's in session. They've been going to each one of the schools to cover all the SRO duties. So we've been able to take care of that. What I want to work towards is when we're fully staffed with 11 full-time people, that allows me to have one SRO, have all the shifts covered, and then have one person that I can assign for criminal investigation follow-up. Because the continuity of having people carry a case from day to day, if you know how 12-hour shifts work, you're on for 12, you're off for 12, you're on for 12, and then you're off for 2 days. So in 1 week's time, they work 3 days, and in the following week, they work 4 days. So they have lots of days off. When you work a case, the case takes as long as the case takes, and for you to leave that case cold for a couple of days really isn't the best option for us. So I think long range for us, we're looking at having somebody that can take those cases. If I take an initial case and I'm gone for 2 days, I can have somebody else who's there multiple days in a row and can modify their schedule easily to follow through and have a better case resolution for us. Let's see. Police building exit onto First Street. I know you guys were just talking about First Street over there where it's unimproved, and it is a gravel street right now. Short-sightedness on our part, not understanding how tight our physical parking lots are. We do VIN inspections here as a satellite office for the KHP. So there's lots of times where someone will call and say, hey, I have a 5th-wheel trailer I need to bring in. And they pull right into the parking lot, and now they can't get out. And we've had a couple times when we've had them squeezed in there pretty tight to where we've had to go out and help them out. If we were to have made a cutout onto First Street where it was a natural pull-through off of the highway, would have been ideal. We didn't think about it. So I think down the road, we need to try to figure out if we can accommodate making another exit off onto First Street. We've been fortunate the 2 times that we've had extremely large vehicles get in there. We've got them out with minimal damage to our grounds there. It did cause some. We can fix it. It's all grass and mud. Made some pretty good ruts. But lots of times people who are used to driving those really big vehicles call ahead and say, hey, where can I park? And we tell them you're going to have to park on First Street. So they are coming up, parking on First Street, walking up to our building, and we'll walk out and help them. And as soon as our grass comes in a lot better, it's going to be a nice, easier walk for them rather than through the mud. The last thing was just something that I threw out there just before I started here. The police department used to have a speed trailer where we could set it up in a neighborhood, and as people rolled by, they could see their speed. And with lots of times we get people who complain about speeders in the area, people are driving too fast near my home, all those kinds of things. We get those quite often. It'd be easier for us this trailer is non-functional. So we're going to look into getting that trailer back to its functioning capacity, or if we need to, we'll look at buying a new one later on in a year or two. Those are just the few things that I had that mostly cost money, some of them don't. Like the structure of the police department, I just kind of wanted to give you an idea of what we're looking at doing.
Any questions for Chief?
What's the long range plan to fully staff the department? You have that plan?
Right now, I think 11 will do it.
Right.
We've been pretty good with 11. That gives me the ability to have 2 people on duty all the time. Now, granted, this is with no days off that you work your schedule. I have to admit that the trade-off for working a 12-hour shift for these guys is they get lots of days off. So they haven't been real stingy about saying, hey, I need time off for this or time off for that. They've been very satisfied with their 12-hour shift and really don't want to go do anything different. If we were going to modify that 12-hour shift, we'd have to talk about maybe more personnel to make sure I had plenty of coverage. With the amount of people that I have, it's been very doable. 2 people on days, 2 people on nights, and you have an A and B shift that work off days from each other. Plus that leaves me 1 SRO, and then when we get fully staffed, I could have that investigator be the rover, and could be a fill-in too when people need to have time off. But long-range planning for us, for our size of our city, that's plenty. I think we're doing pretty good.
Okay, so I'm a little lost. So you're looking to add to the staff from where you're at right
No,
now?
I'm looking to try to get people hired to fill
Okay.
my position.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
You will be fully staffed once you fill all your positions.
correct.
Okay.
And we've got a conditional offer to a young man out of Panama City, Florida, who is getting ready to exit out of the Air Force. He's got family that lives in this area. He's looking to relocate his family back to here, and he's very excited about coming to work. And he's in security forces with the Air Force, which is a law enforcement component for there. He's just not certified. I have to send him to the academy. Now, a longer discussion, and we won't have that tonight, is my philosophy on part-time people. The state allows me to hire someone on a part-time basis, which we've utilized part-time people. What I want is to hire people who are maybe towards the end of their career, maybe retired once like I did, and still have gas in the gas tank and want to work some more, to come and already have been fully trained and fully certified, because the state allows me to hire someone off the street, send them to just 10 days of training at the KLETC Academy to be a part-time officer, and then use them. They do this. They would be doing the same kind of work that I require my full-time people to do that had 16 weeks of training. I just don't think that's fair. It's not fair to the city. It's not fair to our citizens. It's not fair to the individual to do that. So I'm struggling with even though the law allows me to do it, I'm not willing to do it right now. So I have 1 open position right now I'm trying to fill in my part-time positions. We utilize the part-time people mostly for game activity and for special event stuff like Maple Leaf. They come in very handy at Maple Leaf, but they're around us all the time. They wouldn't be working by themselves.
Yeah, that's what.
Guys, thank you again very much.
Glenn, anything?
No, nothing additional, just that, even though you heard here tonight, you gotta make some, priorities. We're getting into the budget, season, so this is appropriate to do that, and we're talking about strategic planning, so it's time to start making some of those difficult choices. It all comes down to money.
Have you spoken to KU about how much the next step would cost us for them to do community outreach and help us finish out this strategic?
No, I haven't got that far yet. If that's what everybody wants to do, we can take that step. And
I think I'd like to see what the cost would be on that. I think everybody in here knows that we're not going to be able to really start back up on that till July because of our budgeting season here.
I'll compile what we've done in these 3 sessions, give that to you and Glenn, and then if you want to pass that on.
Yeah, we can shoot that over to them and then
Okay.
get a bid on.
And if you want to share it
Yeah,
Just the council
yeah,
too,
no.
that way they can see it before we send it out.
So I would like to make a commitment that we didn't hit last year because, with the pandemic hitting, it was crazy for everybody. But, this is obviously very helpful. I mean, a lot of what you shared tonight was obviously 2020, some of it's 2021. How do you fit it in? But most of it's going to be 2022 that you're going to work priority list with Glenn. And there's some aspirational stuff in here as well, right? The substation, the streets, the brick streets, even, accelerating, Barrington. So those things could hit 2022, but as a strategic plan, they may need to have some funding started. So I think the commitment I'd like to see if we could make is get that prioritization list for 2022 as you normally do, and then come back to the council and take a look at another work session, and then the committee heads have the opportunity to look at, did I get everything I needed? Do I need to make some decisions? Is there any feedback? So you don't just see it when the budget's published. You kind of know what it's going to be ahead of time, and maybe there's another chance for some dialogue before we have that vote. I was cramming a lot of meetings in, but I think we owe that to you to kind of share, that discussion and make you part of it, and then we move forward and we all vote to publish the budget.
Yeah, typically we probably want to do that in April and May.
Try to.
Because-
and we tried last year, we just couldn't get it done.
Yeah, with the pandemic and stuff, but either April or May, we want to, probably April, we'll want you guys to come back with your priority list for next year's budget. Because we're going to be kicking off, and then May, we'll have another work session with the council. And then June is when we actually receive our amounts from the county on our ad valorem taxes. Amounts.
New tax?
Yeah. That's an inside joke.
Yeah, sorry.
But yeah, so plan on last Tuesday of May with the priority list for next year's budget. Does that work for you guys?
I think the other piece of this that we're gonna have to crack, with the American Rescue Plan and the money coming in, I mean, that's obviously gonna be an influx of.
We should know that by that work session. in
Right.
April.
Perfect. So then we'll know if there's other sources for money to do more sooner based on the plan. So I think that's kind of needs to come together is for 2022.
What I've been doing research on that is it sounds like since we're a city under 50,000 people, our money will come from the state. However, they allocate that across. Lawrence gets it directly from, I think, the federal government.
Then just the mechanism is through the state. It's 30 days after the direct deposit for the bigger cities, right? Yeah. So, but I guess with the plan, then we'll know what we can do. And we'll know what funds we have based on that new tax you're talking about and these funds. So appreciate the time, and hopefully we can give you some feedback.
Just following up on that one more thing, there is another bill working its way through Congress, but now they're calling it just pure infrastructure bill.
Right.
It's going to be probably heavy on green energy and those sorts of things, so we might want to track that pretty closely when we're talking about additional solar or whatever type of power we're talking about. There may be some funding in there. They're again, when they start talking trillions of dollars, which they are talking then once again, trillion here, trillion there, pretty soon it's real money. And, it's kind of hard to wrap your head around trillions of dollars. I don't even know what that looks like. But, they've got an outline for what they're trying to do. We'll see how that shakes out. So there's actually two possibilities. I don't know how you choose to fund what project under what yet, because they don't want a conflict. But we need to work on that as we go forward. And so I know the guys at Baker Tilly are tracking that. They've got an office that does nothing but track bills that are coming out of Congress. So hopefully there'll be some more guidance as we go forward, and we'll see what's eligible for what here. That may solve a number of our problems. Don't know which ones yet. That's the hard part.
Right.
But I think
That's
that
why
will
having this
clarify.
all gathered up, we'll have a shot at being able to just, kind of look at it and make some decisions. So this is why it's helpful.
Because what they typically do is just like they did in the last stimulus, but they're looking at what they call shovel-ready projects. That means it's been engineered and you put some thought into it and you're ready to go and get the process underway. So the more we have, the better deal.
Yeah.
So, we'll just get funded quicker if we do that, so.
Anything else? All right. Thank you all.
Thank you.
What's it?
Who's that showing here, showing there?